Okay, hi everyone. I am Maddie Lazer from Foundry. I'm the Flix product manager, which is Foundry's pre-production tool. I'm joined by Bryce right next to me. He's our
Hi.
specialist. He knows lots about Flix. He helps write custom plugins for customers and such, so he's a really great resource if you want to track either of us down after this brief demo. We're happy to talk to you about it. All right. Okay, so Flix is, like I said, Foundry's pre-production offering. It's designed for collaboration. It's meant to be a hub for your pre-production process. Everything that's not art department can move in and out of Flix. So then, there are a number of unique challenges that we face today in pre-production as we've moved from the land of paper and pencil into digital. One of the things is that time and cost are always getting more and more challenging. People are trying to make things faster at higher quality than ever before. You're trying to shove things through the pipe really quickly, and it can be very difficult and disorganized, so Flix was designed to help out with that. We're also dealing with dispersed teams. The freelancer economy is becoming a real thing for us all now, as I'm sure you know. Flix is going to help you collaborate, whether it's between a director and an artist giving notes, or between countries if you need. If you have someone in China and someone in LA, Flix can help out with that. And last but not least, we have diversified workflows. So you have some artists who have been trained on Photoshop, some artists who have been trained on Storyboard Pro, some artists who use Maya, and you want a central place for all of them to work without needing to change the ways they're used to working. Flix will handle that for you. So then, let's just go through really quickly some of the feature highlights in Flix. So first of all, Flix is going to help out with your file management. It's traditionally really, really confusing to keep track of pre-production files. You might have a coordinator dedicated to just renaming stuff and managing a server, which is not fast or efficient. So Flix is actually going to handle the naming, versioning, and organization of your files. So if you as a story artist start boarding, you don't need to worry about anything. You don't worry about where a file is, what it's named. Flix handles it all for you. Also, it's going to help out with collaboration. So this is a central storehouse where everyone can find everything they need. So if you're looking for the latest version of a cut, it's there. If you're looking for a previous version that you want to use as a teaser, it's there. You can organize it as well as you want. It's a really great resource. Also, it comes equipped with lots of really nice plugin sets for third-party applications. So on the sketching side, we have really robust integration with Photoshop, Storyboard Pro, and TV Paint. On the editorial side, we're going to handle conforming and the round trip with Avid Media Composer, Adobe Premiere, and Final Cut Pro 7. And we also handle a one-way push to shotguns. When you're ready to move into production, we can populate your shotgun for you. Last but not least, we have a set of integrations with Maya that we'll be getting into a little bit later. And like I said, production handoff management is handled by Flix. So when you're ready to move from pre-production to production and need things to not be a chaotic mess because it's time to actually start animating, Flix will package everything up into nice, neat, organized bundles. You can put it directly into Shotgun. It can put it into a directory so your TD can grab what they need and put it into any other management system. Up to you. All right, so this is just a brief overview of everything I said. Think collaboration, think file management, think using the apps you want, think putting it into your pipeline, and think about doing this more quickly, which means less money. And just a brief overview of some of our customers that we're working with right now. So we're really well represented in feature and TV animation at this point, really designed originally for the CG animation workflow, but we're also starting to look into VFX and live action. So I think the really nice thing about our customers is while it can work for a really big guy like DreamWorks, someone with an army of engineers to do custom things that they wanted to do, we're also in a bunch of smaller places. So for example, Original Force has an LA outpost that they use to develop their movie that's coming out in 2018, Duck Duck Goose. They have a single IT guy and no TD, and Flix allowed them to make a feature quality CG movie with that level of resource. So this is something that can work for many different environments. This is just Flix at a glance. We can run on Linux, Windows, or Mac, and we integrate with all of these softwares, and implementation is in under 1 week. Training is fast. This is designed to be simple for artists. It's not something where it's really feature heavy that they need to learn a new workflow. This is designed to let you work like you're used to working and just get going. So without further ado, I'm going to have Bryce jump into a brief demo. If you guys want more detail on any of these points, definitely seek us out. I'm going to take it away.
All right. So the first thing you'll see when you launch Flix is that it runs in a web browser. So that means that it's available to everyone at the studio. You just need a browser, and you'll see that directly in there. First thing is really the project browser. You'll have a list of all the shows that you're assigned to. That's obviously by artist, that you can choose which artist can work on what show. Just have to click on it, and it will automatically load a list of all the sequences for that show. If you were to work with an episodic show, it would obviously load all the episodes. In my case, that's a feature that's for Transylvania, so we're going to use those sequences and actually use the Humanville sequence. So I'm using the little filter to easily find that. And just, again, clicking on it will load. Something that Flix is really good at is keeping track of everything you've ever done with Flix. So whenever you make a change, so whether that's a revision on the board, moving boards around, moving an actual shot around, changing dialogue, changing timing, editing the audio, whatever that may be, you have an opportunity to save as a new version. So that means whenever you make a change, you can go back to a previous version and kind of make sure that you can work with what you want. And if you remember something that was better at one point, you can always go back to that.
Exactly, and this versioning is really, really cool because it operates both on a panel level and on a sequence level. So you can always find previous versions of panels. You can also see now, you see P's next to some of these sequences. If Bryce scrolls down, you'll see Q's next to some other things. P means we pushed to editorial. Q means it came back. So you can see the entire history of the sequence as it's moved through pre-production.
It's also color-coded per artist, so you can kind of see the level of collaboration that happened just on this one sequence. And we're at version 812. At this point. So there were, 812 different versions of that particular cut.
There don't need to be that many if you don't want it, though.
If you get it first time right, that's great.
Yes.
Also, we have some comments that you can add for versions. So, for example, you can easily find your screening versions, versions that you use for screening. If you use the screening comment when saving it, you can easily find that to find, how it looked like back, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, however long your pre-production process took.
Right.
So to load that version, I'm just going to click on it. That load, the latest version of the edit. All right. So that's pretty much the main interface. So you can see, all of your boards in context. In that case, this already came back from Editorial. So we have some timing information. For example, this board is 20 frame long. The second board is going to be 24 frame long. The third board is 9 frame long, and so on. So in Flix, you can just step through boards and just go through your whole sequence like that. But obviously, since it already has information from Editorial, you can actually play it directly. So let's load pitch mode to have everything in full screen and actually see it a little better. I'll just move the dialogue at the top so that everyone can see and play that sequence for a couple of seconds.
Anyone, I'm homeschooled.
Vampire.
Is that garlic?
Vampire. Vampire.
All right. If you want to see the whole sequence, you can find me at the pod later. Another thing that the pitch mode allows you to is actually record timing yourself. So let's say you didn't go to Editorial yet. As a story artist, you did all of your boards, and you want to kind of record yourself timing this sequence and also record your some audio. So whether that's an audio track or you acting it out as you pitch it. So you can select your microphone on your computer. I'm not going to record audio myself, but you can actually click on this little record button. As soon as you click on that, Flix will start recording the timing on each board. So if I hit that and start, going through the boards, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on those. Then I know there's a camera pan coming, so I'm going to be a little faster on that. Another one here. Then this guy gets this in his head, and so on. So I'm going to stop the recording now. And if I go back to my main interface, you'll see that each panel now has the updated timing. So the first board is now 30 frames, and so on. So this is really cool for the first pass before sending it out to Editorial, so you can actually give your editor a sense of the timing of the sequence instead of exporting a QuickTime and having to manually match your edit to that QuickTime.
Exactly. It can also be really useful for dispersed teams. If you want to pitch to your director, but it's going to be just obnoxious and life-ruining to try to deal with time zones, you can record your entire pitch. Your director can just get into Flix, watch it. He can adjust timings where he doesn't like it. He can adjust the audio if he doesn't like it and send that to Editorial so they know exactly the emotion, the rough timing, everything they're meant to be working with.
All right. And other things in the main interface, just to go through quickly, you can obviously select multiple boards. You can move them around in Flix directly. It's pretty easy, just to drag and drop. You can also have all of those options to cut boards, maybe reuse them in another sequence. You can copy and paste. You can duplicate a board and all that stuff. All right, so revisions. So obviously, you're not going to get it right the first time, so your director might, add some notes to your board. So let's say I'm the director, and my opinion is that this guy would look really cool with a little hat. So in Flix directly, I'm going to toggle on the draw tools and actually draw a little hat on there. And that's just a note. So I'm just drawing that on top of him. And that doesn't actually ruin the actual PSD file. That's just an overlay inside of Flix that you can see. And as soon as you do that, it will highlight this board in Flix, so that as a story artist, when you load that sequence again, you will see that this needs attention. So we have a pretty good integration with Photoshop, so really all you have to do to actually make the revision is double-click on this board. Flix will automatically find the PSD file on disk and open it for you in Photoshop, so at this point you can actually, you know, draw the hat yourself. So this is not going to be any better than before. There you go, beautiful hat. And all I have to do at this point really is to go to File and then Save, and Flix will automatically know what panel to replace and what the revision was, and will replace it directly in Flix. So if I go back, I'll toggle off the draw tools, you will see that this is my actually revised panel directly from Photoshop. And it actually replaced that board, but it doesn't mean that you don't have access to the previous versions of that board. Like Maddie said earlier, Flix is non-destructive and it will keep version of sequences as well as boards. So in our case, this is the new version of that board. I just have to click on this little label, and it will give me a list of all the versions of that particular board, so I can always go back to different ones and kind of figure out which one works best. And obviously the one with the hat works.
It's way better. Gotta use it.
All right, so I made a change. So this big save button highlighted in red, that means I can save that. And that's now a new version.
Yeah. And other things you can do within this native interface, a lot of people, and when I say a lot, almost everyone will want to establish shot breaks out of Editorial. Flix can ingest that, but if you ever want to just establish shots for whatever reason, maybe you're working in traditional 2D animation and you don't want it to come from Editorial, you can establish shots from right within Flix, which is quite nice. You can establish your naming convention, whatever you need, and that's going to be really simple. Once again, all of this can actually also come back from Editorial. So if you establish your shots, if you establish audio, all of that can port from Editorial into Flix and be a good indication moving forward.
All right, let's load the actual demo version before I messed it up. Again, I'm just going to come back to a previous version I already saved, and we're going to publish that to Premiere. So the first thing we might want to do is publish a PDF, just so that your editorial department has a contact sheet to kind of refer to. So this is the first publish to Editorial to Premiere, so all the boards are going to be marked as new. So this PDF will actually show you and highlight every board that is new. In this case, it's the first publish, everything is new. Second step would be just to actually publish it to Premiere. So we integrate with Avid Media Composer as well as Premiere in a Final Cut Pro 7. I'm going to use Final Cut Pro in my case. Add a little comment saying first pass to Premiere, and click on the Publish button. So at this point, Flix will detect every new panel that's never been published to Editorial, and it will create an XML for you to just drag and drop into Premiere. So let's actually do that right now.
Yeah, and if you were working with Avid Media Composer instead, what it's going to give you is an AAF for every new panel as well as an ALE. So for example, if you only have one-for-one revisions, you could actually drag in your ALE. It would automatically relink and automatically conform that all in for you, which is quite nice when you're moving quickly.
So all I did here was just drag this XML in my Premiere bin, double-click on this sequence, and it will automatically open it for me. And you'll notice that this is really the sequence I had in Flix, with the proper timing and actually the audio track as well. So we can play it in there, and you'll notice it's the exact same thing as what you had in Flix.
Anyone. I'm homeschooled.
Vampire.
Is that garlic?
Vampire.
All right.
Yeah. So then when you're in Editorial, you can do whatever you need. You can make multi-layer effects, you can reorder things, you can pull in panels from other sequences, whatever you need to do. Then obviously the time is going to come to send it back to Flix. So from Premiere and from Final Cut Pro, all we need from you is an XML and a movie file. From Avid, we just need the movie file and a text file, changeless basically. Put those into our special interface for Editorial and click Publish. And
I'll add a
back
comment
it
first if you
goes.
don't mind.
No.
So yeah, from that interface, it's basically a bridge between Story and Editorial, and you can just load your QuickTime XML, and you can choose what branch to publish it to. I'm going to choose the main branch. Maddie can speak to that in a couple of seconds. And I'll just click on Publish so that the conform can happen now.
Right, so the branch functionality is really nice. Basically, what that's meaning to say is that we have a main branch, which is where typically most studios like to work. However, we also have other branches, which are basically nice sandbox little areas for people to work in, so you can have your own work, no one else is touching it. So for example, sometimes story artists want to work freely without maybe directors looking at it instantly. They can have a branch for themselves to work, iterate, and then when they're ready, they can publish it over to the main branch, indicating ready for director review. You can also, for example, if you have a sequence that's almost done boarding but not quite, but you want to simultaneously start scouting a sequence in Maya, you can have your Maya branch where they're doing that simultaneously. If you have 2 storyboard artists working at once on half of the sequence each, you can have them both work in their own area and then merge them together. It'll see what's the newest iteration of each panel and then merge the 2 branches together. So there are a lot of really useful ways to use that in a production setting.
All right, so the publish is finished. So that now shows in green. It means that there's a new version available. I just want to touch on that little list that you will see here. That's basically a little log that Flix gives you of everything it found in the XML or cut list from Editorial. So in our case, it found some markers, which will mean there's some shots in there. And also I added some effects, so some overlapping clips. For example, if you had something on a track above your storyboards, Flix will create what we call ref panels. Same thing if you add a camera move or a paint effect or whatever that may be from Editorial. We support pretty much every effect from there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to our main interface in Flix, and you'll notice that there's a new version that was created. Flix will also send an email to, for example, your editorial department as soon as you publish something new so that everyone is notified that there's a new version. There's a Q icon, like Maddie mentioned earlier, so as soon as you click on that, it will open your reference QuickTime from Editorial, either in QuickTime Player, VLC, RV, whatever software you're comfortable with. And I'm just going to load that new version by just clicking on it. All right, so first thing we'll notice is the shot breaks. So earlier we added shots directly in Flix. Here, this came back from Editorial. So that naming convention is the one that I had created, that I have in Editorial. These are the marker names from Editorial, and they get populated directly in Flix. And these are all my different shots directly in there. The second thing we'll notice is ref panels. So that's what I mentioned earlier when we add effects to boards in Editorial. For example, in that case, we added this little Flix text on top of her, so it looks like she has a Flix sweater. That's just an effect that Flix created, that you created in Editorial. Flix detected in a cut list, so it just created a ref panel by just grabbing frames from the QuickTime. Mm-hmm. So the great thing about Flix is that it will find your original PSD file on which the effect was added. So if I just click on this part that says ref, it will show me the actual, original layered PSD file. So all I can do is just click on this Photoshop button. It will open it for me. I can just draw something really quickly, click on save, and I will replace my ref file directly in there.
Exactly. So it's really nice. We're not going to try to mess with any of your effects in Editorial. We're just going to acknowledge they exist. So when you need to change the underlying file, that language is always maintained. You can update the files that you need to without messing with any of your effects.
Same thing for camera moves. So for example, I have a little push in on this board. Added in Editorial, you can just play that directly in Flix with the associated audio, and it will just play fine, but you still have access to your original layered PSD file.
Exactly, and those original layered PSD files, that's going to save Editorial a lot of time if they are doing any nice stuff in After Effects. They don't need to go to the story artist, have the story artist figure out where they put it. They can just get into Flix themselves and pull it up, pull it into their edit, and they're off to the races. The other really nice thing that I think is cool to show is just how easy it is to start from nothing in Flix. You can literally never name or save anything locally. Flix can handle all of this for you, which means that you can find everything you're looking for.
So here, I'm in Photoshop. These are all the actions that come with Flix. And you can just click on one button, New Template 177. I'm using a 177 aspect ratio for my show. That will create an empty document in there, and I can just start drawing without worrying about saving the file or anything. So I'm just going to draw really quickly a couple of hills, a couple of trees on there. I'm really sorry about my drawing skills. And a little guy right here. And basically, we just want this guy to run from left to right. So let's just have this, and we want that as a first pose. We can just click on the current image action. That will send this PSD to Flix directly without you saving the file, worrying about where to save it, what name it should have, and anything like that. So now you can just move your little guy. Oop. I'm
Can you
struggling.
though?
Can I? Am I good enough with Photoshop to do that? So then you can use the current image, move your little guy and just send different poses. My God, I'm not good at this, am I? Well,
I mean,
anyway, you get it.
They get it, and this is too sad to continue. But basically, moral of the story is it's going to maintain your multi-layered PSD always. You can just send things, so it's going to be a storyboard process that's actually a lot closer to the really rapid iteration that people used to have on paper that I know they miss. So that's awesome. We have about 5 minutes left, so I really quickly just want to touch on some of the Maya stuff. So workflow with Storyboard Pro and TV Paint is similar. Basically, you can expect to have a file, send things to Flix, whether it's the whole sequence that you've done in Storyboard Pro, that'll send over with markers, audio, dialogue, whatever. Same goes for TV Paint. Maya-wise, though, we have some nice plugins that are really useful for early previs and rough layout. So from Maya, you can basically send stills to Flix, just screen captures. What goes over with those stills is metadata, though. So we will ingest any metadata for camera as well as any capturable object. So this is basically you sending metadata without ever establishing and naming cameras without setting up a sequencer. What Flix can then do is restore that metadata to Maya from that particular instance. So for example, if you have a series of cameras that you wanted to restore, maybe you're scouting out a sequence, scouting out an environment rather, and want to give it to lighting to say, is this going to work for you? They could restore those cameras, take a quick look around, say, you know what, if we put a window in there, it'd be a lot better. It's a really, really nice workflow. The other half of the Maya workflow that we have pertains to the sequencer. So we don't want to mess with artist workflows. We don't want to do anything. All we want to do is give them editorial timing into a new track on their sequencer so they know exactly the timing that editorial wants. So there are fewer emails going back and forth with people saying it's 2 frames too short or just, whatever that conversation typically is. So from editorial published to Flix, that gives us the timing. We can then just click time and conform, and it'll give you a new track of timing in your sequencer that your artist can use. We can also populate a sequencer through the first time with you with all of these image planes. So if someone's just getting started, we can give you every shot break, every timing, all of the image planes, and they can get started. So this is really just meant to make people's lives easier, just meant to make Maya a bit more intuitive as it pertains to the overall production workflow. And that's it for our really rapid Flix demo. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, Bryce and I will be around. Bryce is like omnipresent on the pod, so just track him down. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks.